Thank you, Permanent Secretary Gujganga. I want to recognize the only certified Master of Ceremony in the world. But I also want to recognize colleague ministers who are here. I want to recognize and a special welcome to the Minister of Mineral Resources, Minister Ramatlodi from South Africa. I also want to recognize the very powerful panel of diamond leaders, what I think would be called the doyens of the diamond sector in the world. The names mentioned here are names that I first came across when I attended the World Diamond Congress. Very powerful people in the world of diamonds, and I want to welcome them to Zimbabwe and to say that feel at home. This is your land and you can enjoy it. I want to also recognize colleagues from the public and private sector here in Zimbabwe and to express my gratitude that they have come here. And I note that in discussion last night with His Excellency the President, who arrived in the morning from Austria and has got engagements this morning with the universities, we agreed that he would come to officially open this conference in the afternoon. And so we will have the official opening this afternoon. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in November 2012, the first Zimbabwe Diamond Conference was held against the backdrop of an intense and protracted fight for recognition of Zimbabwe's diamonds under the Kimberley Process certification system. The 600 delegates who gathered at Victoria Falls had come to support Zimbabwe's bid for recognition of its diamonds on the international market. Allow me, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to extend my sincere and profound gratitude to both state and non-state actors for the support rendered to us at this critical stage in the development of our nascent and yet formidable diamond industry. Today, Zimbabwe stands a proud founding member of the KPC. Allow me also to extend heartfelt gratitude to colleague ministers and their delegations from the African Diamond Producers Association, ADPA, for their kind support and assistance. Zimbabwe's mining sector has been the most dynamic sector of the Zimbabwean economy over the last 5 years, leading the 2009-2011 rebound with average annualized growth of 35%. The sector is projected to grow by an average of 6% in 2014. Its contribution to the country's GDP has seen a phenomenal rise from about 4% in the 90s to 16% in 2013, and a projected share of 17% in 2014. Currently, the sector employs more than 45,000 people, excluding all informal mining activities. The mining sector has seen a has been identified as the centerpiece of the country's economic recovery program, Zim Asset, and its success is hinged on the success of value addition and beneficiation of our minerals. With a 45% contribution to exports and $3 billion worth of contribution to gross domestic product, it is an important sector to Zimbabwe's economy. Our diamond mining sector has a long history, ladies and gentlemen. As some of you may be aware, our diamond journey dates back to 1903, when the first diamonds were discovered by H.R. Moore on Somabula River near Gweru while prospecting for gold. The discovery of the unique deposit, also containing several gemstones, provoked the search for the primary source of the diamonds. However, certain geological parameters disqualified these kimberlites as the sources of the diamonds at Somabula. The source of diamonds, therefore, remains unknown. The failure to locate the source of the Somabula diamonds led to a lull in exploration for a period of 2 decades. Exploration resumed between 1939 and 1941, when private exploration companies probed many parts of Zimbabwe. At that time, results of the exploration were considered unfavorable. Exploration resumed again in the 70s and into the late 1980s, leading to the discovery of River Ranch deposit. In 1996, River Ranch became the first kimberlite diamond mine in Zimbabwe. Exploration for diamonds in independent Zimbabwe resumed through a Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, sponsored aeromagnetic survey covering the country in the mid-1990s. Following the release of the aeromagnetic data, private companies such as Rio Tinto, Kimberlitic Searches, a subsidiary of De Beers, Reunion, and Trillion embarked on intensive diamond exploration exercises. This led to the commissioning of the River Ranch mine. This period also saw the discovery of several kimberlites, including Murowa, Sese, Ngulube, Triangle, Mwenezi, and Marange. Comprehensive exploration and subsequent feasibility studies at Murowa resulted in commissioning of the Murowa mine in August of 2004. Over 150 kimberlites are now known to exist in Zimbabwe, the majority of them occurring in the southern parts of the country. Continued exploration led to the discovery of the diamond-rich placer diamonds, conglomerate and alluvial, at Marange in 2003. However, the primary sources of these diamonds are yet to be identified. The geological environment that hosts the Marange-type diamond deposits is potentially extensive, requires further exploration, and is considered to have one of the highest concentrations of alluvial diamonds in the world. The discovery of the Marange diamond fields marked a turning point, elevating Zimbabwe's position as a diamond-producing country globally. At the announcement of the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme in 2003, Zimbabwe was perceived as an insignificant producer of rough diamonds with only one operation at River Ranch, while Murowa was to come into place in 2004. In November 2011, the country attained the Kimberley Process Certification for the Marange diamonds. To date, 6 diamond mining companies are currently undertaking production in Zimbabwe, while ZMDC is in the process of looking to develop new opportunities for mining across the country. Performance of the diamond sector. Diamond production and export sales have generally been on an upward trend since 2009. Production in 2010 rose significantly from about 1.4 million carats in 2009 to about 8.5 million carats in 2010. The average price per carat rose from about $24 per carat to about $40 per carat between 2009 and 2010. Export sales increased dramatically from about $33 million in 2009 to about $341 million in 2010. The average price increased significantly by about 47% in 2011, resulting in export sales increasing by 24%. However, production plummeted by about 15% subsequently. Production in 2012 increased by about 105%, and export sales increased by about 75%. The increase in production is explained by the increase in the number of diamond mining companies that had started operations by 2012. Furthermore, Zimbabwe was certified as a compliant Kimberley process participant, hence diamond exports were no longer subject to supervised export mechanisms. Also, prior to the Kimberley process certification, companies had accumulated stocks which contributed to the dramatic increase in export sales in 2012. In 2013, export sales decreased by about 39%, owing to about 40% decline in production. It is important to highlight that production resumed to normal levels as the accumulated diamond stocks had now been sold. The average price increased by about 2%. Opportunities in the diamond sector. Growth opportunities span the entire spectrum of the diamond value chain, from exploration, mining, beneficiation, value addition, trading, domestic as well as international trading. We begin with exploration. And having heard the history of Zimbabwe and the information that is now at our disposal, it is very clear that Zimbabwe is underexplored. Despite the diamond discoveries made, Zimbabwe still remains largely underexplored and therefore presents huge opportunities for new discoveries to be made. As the state, we must know the value of these concessions. This requires comprehensive knowledge of our geology and mineralization. Quantification and valuation of the unmined assets remains our top priority. New technologies such as aeromagnetics, big data, and cloud computing will be deployed to this end. Cabinet recently approved the conversion of the Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe into the Mining Exploration and Promotion Company of Zimbabwe to promote and quantify the country's mineral resources in respect of diamonds. Private companies can also partner with the Mining Exploration and Promotion Company to complement government efforts. Diamond cutting and polishing and jewelry manufacturing. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe is indeed many African countries, produced minerals as an end in itself and not as a means to an end. We produced minerals so they could drive industrialization of others at the expense of our own industrialization. Today we seek to develop robust mining activities which become the backbone of our own growth and development. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, primary extraction of minerals comes with a certain level of skills development, which in itself attracts certain levels of income by way of salaries and wages. Consequently, higher levels of value addition and beneficiation also require higher levels of skills, which in turn result in higher incomes. Therein lies the catalyst for the formation of a middle income. And as we all know, nations grow not because of the thousands and millions of poor people. Nations grow because they have created a sufficiently strong middle income class. And so that is what we must aspire towards. Government recently gazetted a statutory instrument that rationalizes the diamond cutting and polishing licensing system in such a manner that both government and the private companies benefit from the revenue of their business. In pursuance of this objective, we are finalizing discussion with companies for full integration from mining through cutting and polishing to jewelry manufacturing, product branding, and international marketing and distribution. Companies were approved also to start manufacturing and are expected to create significant numbers of jobs. Issues of licensing, tenure, and access to rough diamonds have clearly been dealt with in this process. 10% of production is reserved for local cutters and polishers. Given the footprint of Marange diamonds, about 10 to 15% of the diamonds are gems or near gems. This translates to about 1.5 to 2 million carats of gems or near gems for local cutters and polishers, presenting huge opportunities for investment into the sector. We are also looking, as we go towards the budgeting process, looking at the possibility of reducing or eliminating royalty for those diamonds that are destined for local cutting and polishing, including the removal of the 15% VAT as part of efforts to improve the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this, that in discussion in government, we recognize that the process of value addition and beneficiation is a process of industrialization. Industrialization has its own costs. We recognize that in order to create that industry, that new industry that we never had before, we might have to give up certain revenue inflows to government in order to create an industry, in order to create employment for our people, employment of a higher skill than the current employment that exists in the primary sectors. And so there is that recognition in government, and we're discussing now incentive packages that will enable us to create an industry that follows diamond production in the mining sector. Strategies to develop complex and diverse linkages will be the bedrock of new minerals development policy. Inextricably tied to the creation of these linkages is the extraction of value from our mineral resources. The minerals development policy notes that to transform the mining industry from a predominantly extractive one to an integrated productive one requires that we prioritize local value addition and beneficiation, thereby complementing our industrial development and trade policies and meeting the expectations and aspirations of our people. Mining has a direct link with the manufacturing sector and can lead to industrialization, a fact that we have always known but have not done enough to bring to fruition. The new policy will provide right strategies that need to be pursued to reach that end. Technologies. The new mining sector is currently replete with antiquated plant and machinery, utilizing outdated and archaic technologies. It is incumbent upon us to revolutionize our mining sector by bringing new methods of mining to bear on our industry so as to improve efficiency and close the technology gap between us and other mining destinations. Investment is sought in upgrading this mining equipment. The availability of adequate power, water supplies, road and rail networks, and telecommunications is pivotal to our growth targets. Enormous investment opportunities therefore present themselves through putting in place 21st century highways, airports, dams, rail, and communication systems. As a country, we have the primary resources required to put these systems in place. We've got the iron ore and the chrome for the steel, the limestone for the cement, the water, the human capital. We need partners to come into joint venture with us. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe is committed to promoting sustainable development of a diamond industry for the benefit of Zimbabweans as well as our partners. It is our major objective that we ensure competitiveness of Zimbabwe's diamond sector on the global market. And as I conclude, let me quote from somebody whose name I forget. He says, "Show me a heart unfettered by foolish dreams, and I'll show you a happy man." And yet another one says, "But only in their dreams can man be truly free. It was always thus, and thus always shall it be." But the lives of all of us here and the doyens of this industry that I mentioned earlier have shown very clearly that only in the realization of their dreams can man be truly free. It was always thus, and thus always shall it be. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,